Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm happy to be here today with Helen from Irish Granny. Hi, Helen. Thank you, dear, for
Hello.
being here with me.
Well, thank you for the
And
invitation.
of
I don't
course,
get out a lot anymore.
you don't get out a lot. Neither do I. So yeah, it's good to get out with you. Um, I came up with an idea that I wanted to do some readings on the Supreme Court in general and some of the people in the Supreme Court. And then, of course, Joe Biden gave this State of the Union, and that was an interesting Supreme Court look. And as well as yesterday, hearing that Amy Coney Barrett and one of the more liberal judges, and I can't remember who it is, I think it's Elena Kagan, maybe,
Mm.
they're getting together and trying to tell people not to be so mean to each other and so divisive. And it was interesting that the two of them, one being very conservative, one being very liberal, are coming together with this idea, which it's about time, isn't it? Don't you think?
I have mixed emotions about it. We'll talk about Amy,
Okay.
as I call her, Anita COVID Bryant. she pushes all my buttons
Yeah,
because of her conservative Catholicism, the way she was raised, the things I hear her say echo from my
sure.
childhood, and I don't trust her for that reason because a lot of what she says is code for don't bother your pretty little head, go back into the kitchen. Let the big boys rule everything, and people will say, oh, but she's a woman and she's got this position of power. That's calculated.
Yeah, it is
She's a
calculated.
Trojan horse.
Well, and I'm wondering, if you're going into, and you've gone into the Project 2025, which isn't something that I want to really go too deeply into, but really the basis for Project 2025 is to sublimate women. And they're,
It's
you know,
yeah, it's a
yeah,
project of dominionism, which
yeah.
is the new apostolic reformation. Mike
Hmm.
Johnson's a big mover and shaker in that group. It's like the Duggars belong to a sect that follows that. They believe in the exact wording of the Old Testament, Genesis. God
Hmm.
gave Adam dominion over everything. Therefore, white men can do whatever they
Right,
want with impunity.
right.
They want biblical law. They want to do away with Constitution. This is allegedly replace it with biblical law
Hmm.
and make, for example, blasphemy and adultery death penalty cases. And I've even heard them on podcasts talking about let's make executions public. Let's do them like at the Super Bowl. Let's do them in
Pay per
arenas
view. Yeah, pay per view, I thought. Yeah,
and make
yeah.
it mandatory for kids to see them.
Oh, lovely. So we're going back to France in the guillotine days. Okay.
Well, this is
Yeah,
right to life.
right. Absolutely.
So,
Um,
Nessie, you got me
anyway,
started.
I know, I know. I jumped
Sorry.
right in, Helen. I jumped right in. Helen decided to look at the more conservative Supreme Court justices, and she had to hold her nose for several days as she was writing her notes because they're so abysmal. But
Yep.
I did want to mention, though, that no one has ever really called out the Supreme Court, especially in a speech at the State of the Union. And I was quite surprised and happy to see that Joe did the other night.
I did not watch the State of the Union
Oh,
speech
okay.
because I am so anxious to have
Mhm.
Biden win that
Yeah.
when he does public speaking, I'm like at the edge of my seat. It's worse
Yeah.
than any terrible scary movie. My stomach is in a knot. I can't watch it because I anticipate, oh my God, will this be the time? And I heard he did a wonderful
Yeah.
job.
You did.
Yeah.
And
What did he
yeah,
say about the Supreme Court?
well, of course, the Supreme Court's all sitting there like, like the nuns in the church, how they sit together and they're stony faced. And Alito wasn't there, and neither was Clarence Thomas. They were not there. But he said how disappointed he was that the Supreme Court had done what they did and take Roe away, and that they better watch out or something like that because women. You're right in your not amicus brief, but what's the word when they do um, when one of them doesn't like it and they bring
a dissent.
a dissent. You are right in your dissent that this is the women are going to come out and you're going to be sorry. They're going to come out and vote in droves. Yeah.
Well, how do I put this? I'm trying to be careful about what I say here, but
I know.
People have said, it has been said, and I'm just repeating what I've heard, that they lied in their hearings, their Senate hearings, to be allowed under the Supreme Court.
Oh, they did.
They lied because they were we'll talk about it because I've got it written down, but they were all asked specifically about stare decisis. They were asked about set precedent, and they manipulated their words. So on the surface, it sounded like, oh, yes. But when you really, very lawyerly look at their words, they weaseled their way around what they really meant. So
I remember
we'll talk
when
about
Amy
it,
was being grilled, and she said, "This is am I frozen again?"
No, you're back.
Okay, sorry. When Amy was being grilled, she said, "Well, this is well-established precedent," or something like that. And so I knew right then and there that, and I think Kavanaugh did the same thing, and I think Gorsuch did the same thing, didn't he?
They all did, yeah. They all swore up and down they wouldn't change set precedent, and we'll talk about it. So, should we just trade off one after the other? Okay, so Gorsuch. It's important, and I'll try not to go too deep because I took way too many notes. So you shut me up if I get out of control. So his mother was in the Colorado House of Representatives, 1976 to 1980. She was the first female administrator for the EPA under Reagan. And as the administrator of the EPA, she was a new Federalist. So, make of that what you will. Believing in downsizing federal agencies. So the fox was running the chicken coop, right? Downsize federal agencies, deregulate federal agencies. In 22 months, she decreased their budget by 20%. In 22 months, she decreased the number of cases against polluters. She relaxed the Clean Air Act and the regulations for clean air. She she took away restrictions against spraying deadly pesticides. She cut the number of EPA employees. She hired staff for the EPA from the agencies that the EPA was supposed to be regulating. She placated corporate polluters. She was accused of trying to destroy the EPA. Well, seems pretty obvious. For example, she let Thriftway pollute with lead in the gas. By not enforcing regulations. She just let it slip. So Gorsuch, I wrote, is a patriarchal theocrat. He was raised Roman Catholic, went to Catholic schools. From the time he was a little kid, remembered for his strong moral stances. He attended a Jesuit preparatory high school. And hey, I went to Jesuit schools, so I'm not pointing fingers. He went to the same school as Kavanaugh, but he was 2 years younger. And he later clerked with Kavanaugh for the Supreme Court. He had a BA from Columbia in poli-sci. He was a big debater, ardent conservative, criticized the left wing on campus all the time. And I wrote in capital letters, this is a summary, make of this what you will, big frat boy. He went to Harvard Law. Yeah, that says it all. Went to Harvard Law. He was a committed conservative. He supported the Gulf War. He supported congressional term limits, which is hypocritical. And he graduated from Harvard Law the same class as Obama.
Oh.
1991. He was a law clerk for the Court of Appeals, Justice White, Justice Kennedy. He clerked with Kavanaugh. He worked at a boutique law firm, which is a law firm dedicated to one kind of law. So they only do appellate, or they only do civil, or they only do mass, whatever, He was a partner until 2005. One of his big clients was a Colorado billionaire. His specialty was commercial law. In 2002, he wrote an op-ed to say that they should delay Garland and put Roberts on the appeals court instead. So this tension about Garland's been going on for a while. He's not stupid. He got a PhD at Oxford on a Marshall Scholarship. He got a PhD in philosophy at Oxford. And his area of concentration was euthanasia and assisted suicide. Married a woman who was an English equestrian. And I'm not sure that means she's from England. I think there's a style of horseback riding.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
He wrote a brief against rich shareholders being sued in class action suits and said, this is just not fair. This is costing these corporations billions of dollars. It's just not right. Then he worked for the DOJ. We can skip some of this work history. He worked with Lindsey Graham on the Detainee Treatment Act to take away the jurisdiction of federal courts over detainees. He was all about let them have their lumps, Bush appointed him to the appeals court. He was called a feeder judge. People would come and be his clerk, and then they would go on to clerk for the Supreme Court and stuff. A big advocate in defense of religious freedom, the freedom to discriminate against other religions. Yes. And he did not, against separation of church and state. He voted in favor of Hobby Lobby that didn't want to provide insurance coverage for their employees for contraception, for example. He said putting 10 commandments on display in a public park didn't obligate anybody to have to put images of other religions. They don't have to do that. The law protects unpopular religious beliefs. It's the refuge of religious tolerance. He ruled against having a sex offender registry. He ruled against campaign donor limits. He wanted criminals to pay higher restitutions arrested on a string of stupid warrants. A lot of these large cities do that. They will arrest African Americans over and over and over. Their fines mount up, and they slap them with higher and higher fines. It's like a factory. It's like a prison factory system. He okayed a method of lethal injection that had proven to fail before, and he okayed it as not cruel and unusual. He took Scalia's seat instead of Obama's choice, which was Garland. Thank you, Chuck Grassley and Mitch McConnell. And his work has been criticized by people who are not big boosters of him, as very sloppy as far as the law goes. He believes he's an originalist. He believes they should interpret the Constitution the way the founding fathers intended. We're talking white Christian male slave owners. Women can't vote. Black people are property, etc., etc. His ideology is the same as Kavanaugh's and Alito. He says that when the Supreme Court interprets the law, they should look backwards to the original founding fathers and not worry about the intent of what we're doing today or the context of modern society. He claims liberals circumvent the democratic process, especially in relationship to marriage equality or gay marriage, school vouchers, and assisted suicide. He says liberals have an overweening addiction to using the courts for social debate. He is big on state power over federal power in relationship to civil rights. He says life is fundamentally valuable, so he's against assisted suicide. He's against euthanasia. He's against abortion, and he's a big fan of capital punishment. He sold a timeshare to a CEO of a law firm that was arguing numbers of cases in front of the Supreme Court while he was a justice on the Supreme Court. He refuses to answer questions about his religious affiliations, and he actually was put forward originally by the Federalist Society.
Now,
the end.
There is I can't remember where I saw it. There was a video about the Federalist Society that I've seen and how they work the system. And it was like a documentary. And
The Family? Is it The Family? Is that the one?
Yes, I think so. That was
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
I have the book up here. It's not the same The Family as the Charles Manson family. There's two books.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the Federalist family, basically.
Yeah.
You really dug deep here and put me to shame. But I think it's very interesting that he gets a PhD from Oxford in euthanasia and what the other thing that you said, which had assisted suicide, and now he's totally against it.
Well, he was against it when he did his PhD.
Oh,
He's never been for it. He was arguing. He was considered very, very, very conservative. Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
So I wonder what these original constitutionalists think about the amendments to the Constitution.
Well, some of them, not the ones we're talking about today necessarily, but
Right.
some of their cohort recently have said, for example, the candidate for governor in North Carolina, women shouldn't be voting.
Right, right.
So that's what they think about the amendments.
That's what they think about them. And my feeling is, if trying to put your mind into the original founders and not bringing it up to date into our world here today, they're not even thinking clearly there, because the original founders were deists. They didn't
Yeah.
have a Christian ethic, and these people are just it's very scary.
I have a thing on the door of one of the closets in my kitchen, and it's dying of old age. It looks like one of the Dead Sea Scrolls at this point. It's been up there for almost 20 years. And I took it out of the local big city newspaper, and it was a thing that they put out for the 4th of July, and it is the original, the portraits, the formal portraits of all these founding fathers. And the argument at the top was, it says something like, celebrate our non-Christian founders. And under each portrait, it talks, it quotes things that they had said, positions they had taken. For example, George Washington refused to take the oath of office on a Bible. George Washington, when he was on his deathbed, kicked the priest they sent him out of the room. He wanted nothing to do with it. Now, purely personal choice. I'm not advocating that everybody believes what he believes, but don't mischaracterize him.
That's correct.
Because most of them were deists. They believed some creator somewhere made us all and then took off and left us to our own devices.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And even though people like Jefferson and others did have slaves, they followed more of the reasoning of the Enlightenment, because a lot of them were Enlightenment thinkers. And so it has nothing, it's got nothing to do with what these conservative judges believe in. And it's just really crazy. So,
Allie, you're a professor, and of all people, this should come as no surprise to you when you've got a couple of generations of kids now who can't name the 3 branches of government.
Oh, no, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was just talking to somebody the other day, and they said, do you think we should make people take a test, the citizenship test? And I said, absolutely, before they can even go into Congress, before they could go into, they need to take
the citizenship. I took the citizenship test. You know what they asked me? Not lying. This is the truth. They asked me who the president was at the time, which I can't remember now. I think it was Bush. And then they asked me how many stars and stripes on the flag. And that is all. I studied for that thing like I was going to be doing orals for my PhD.
My son-in-law, he had to know everything. He took it. He just took it, and it was huge. So maybe it's changed over the years. Yeah.
No accent, and I'm white, and I was probably one of like 3 people in a room of several hundred. So,
all right, white privilege. Yeah,
I knew it. Yep.
So here's the card I pulled for Gorsuch as you spoke. Okay, I decided to pull cards. The first thing
good.
He thinks he's a unicorn, and that he can he's one of a kind. He has this really huge ego.
I was going to say he's got that huge erect horn. I'm just saying.
No, I don't.
Pardon me.
What is a unicorn but a white horse who has a big horn? And what is Gorsuch? He's a white man. He's got a big horn because he's a justice.
And
And
pure. They're pure. Right.
that's right. That's right. And he thinks he's just stands right out. He holds the mirror up to himself every single day, and he likes what he sees, and he's never going to change. And if, as you read about his mother and what she did, she made him who he is, how he is. And so that's what I get for that one. And this is him. He thinks he can go in and repair all of the stuff that the liberals got rid of. And we got rid of abortion rights, and we added in gay marriage, and we have transgender, and he's going to go in and repair that. This is his mission.
They want to go back to the Comstock laws of the 1840s. They wanted to go back to the mid 60s, the mid 1960s, and make contraception illegal again.
I know. Yes,
yeah.
They do. They want to actually make it illegal for men and women. And there are a lot of young people out there that are saying, the females are saying, I'm going to get myself fixed. And the males are saying they're going to have a vasectomy because they don't want to have to birth a child they don't want, or have to deal with not being able to have contraception. So,
and look how well that's working for Japan and South Korea, whose economies are set to implode within this generation because they're not replacing young people to take care of the elderly and to drive the economy. So it's complicated.
So finally, I get to pull this card for him, and it says love and light, but if you turn it upside down, it says shadow and hate.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
So he believes that he is exposing himself to be the person that's wonderful and loving and light. And we already know this about Kavanaugh. He's not. But this is Gorsuch. But he's absolutely, I could see him, going to a Charlottetown, so to speak, or Charlottesville, rather. I could see him thinking that wasn't a problem.
He's from this very conservative kind of Catholicism. Now, I was raised with that too, but my parents were social liberals. Mm-hmm. But he's a social conservative. He's a social fascist, is what he is.
Yeah.
But I see some of that commonality, and those people who believe that are intransigent. They believe they're getting a direct message from God, and that everybody else is going to hell. Mm-hmm. You're wrong, and this is not even up for debate.
Right.
So those cards are great.
And if you had if you didn't watch the SCOTUS, then you didn't see the rebuttal by Katie Britt, who is
I saw the Saturday Night Live version. Oh my God! Oh my God!
Nailed it. That's exactly. So we're looking at a woman who, I saw a picture of her, by the way, and the girl in The Handmaid's Tale side by side, because in The Handmaid's Tale, the wife of the commander, yes, she used to be a liberal woman in the government, and then she was sublimated. And so, I don't think Katie Britt was, but what my point is that, you can see how quickly they turn.
It's a psychological thing, identification with the oppressor, right? And she's it's very much a trope in conservative women, white conservative women. You want to keep as close to possible to the misogynists so that you're on their good side. Right. And get the crumbs, at least get something, get the crumbs. It's very scary, really scary.
Yeah, it really is.
Stepford Wives.
Well, and it's very interesting too, because when RBG was in the Supreme Court, her favorite, one of her friends was Justice Scalia, and he was on the total opposite side of her, and yet they respected each other. I guess that's the word I want to say. I don't see that there's any respect in this Supreme Court at all with the other side, just like there isn't in Congress or the Senate. So it's all very partisan, and they're supposed to be very nonpartisan.
It doesn't surprise me, though, because if you ask
Yeah.
yourself a second, what do the liberal judges on the Supreme Court have in common?
Right.
Women, minorities.
Yes. 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 And so I'm going to talk about Ketanji Jackson, because she's she's the one that was most recently put into the she was born in 1970. She's a beautiful black woman who is married to a white man. She got a associate's from Harvard Radcliffe. She has a JD cum laude from Harvard Law School, and she served as a law clerk for the U.S. District Court of Appeals in Massachusetts and other circuit courts, and also with Stephen Breyer of the Supreme Court. And I believe Stephen Breyer
She's frozen in terror.
Oh.
Could you hear me? Sorry. Okay, so your last word was also.
Oh, she also worked for Justice Stephen Breyer. And wasn't Stephen Breyer just retired? Isn't that right? He just stepped down. Did she didn't she replace him? I think she did. I think she replaced him.
I you know what? I don't pay attention until I have no choice, just because it's so bad. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. She was appointed by Joe Biden, and he nominated her in 2022, and she took her seat in 2022. And I believe that Breyer stepped down. He was aging, and so he was getting ready to get out, I think, in order for Joe to go in there, to give somebody else a shot, so he wouldn't die and then have
what happened with RBG. Yeah, boy, that was a blow.
I was very disappointed, of course, that the Democrats didn't argue with Mitch McConnell after RBG died, and they put in who they wanted to, which would have been, would it have been Merrick Garland? It would have been Merrick Garland.
Probably, and he probably would have been better at it than he's been at Attorney General. The hypocrisy opinion. The hypocrisy is breathtaking, and we've almost become numb to it. Lindsey Graham, for example. Everybody knows the story, and it's just never ceases to shock every time you think about it.
Yeah, I know. And you once in a while you'll see the clips from Lindsey Graham back in 2016 talking about how Trump was a weasel and everything, and how Joe Biden was just a good guy. He was, and then the flip-flop, because it's all political. And so
here's the question for you, Allie. Are these people, do they blow at the political wind for personal aggrandizement, very much like people did in the Weimar Republic? Are they sort of the weak people who go along to get along and take as much advantage as possible? Or is there compromise at play here? Are they being either offered something or threatened with something?
Well, that's a fascinating thing, because a lot of the conservatives believe that Joe and Barack Obama were two weak leaders. That they talked about kindness and compassion, and they don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about strength and anger, and so I don't know. I've seen Joe still being kind and wanting to work with both sides, but it hasn't served him in a lot of ways.
Well, he's playing politics from another generation.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
You can't play checkers with someone who's playing chess. It just...
Correct. Yeah. It's not going to work itself out.
No.
Ketanji, I just love her energy. She's the youngest member of the Supreme Court. She has some beautiful children that she has given birth to. Brilliant young woman and her husband's very, very proud of her. I love to see a man stand up and believe in his wife as much as her husband did. I feel as though you're right. She's cutting her teeth on these ridiculous rulings, but she does have the other two women who are also minorities that are allied with her, but 3 to 5, 3 to 6, whatever it is, isn't going to work.
Depends on which way Roberts goes, and he's like a piece of spaghetti, damp spaghetti. She is really a remarkable person, and the things that she has said have been substantial, but she hasn't been able to, they're being held back by the culture in the court, and it's really shameful. Her husband, in a sense, reminds me of Kamala Harris's husband.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I do. I agree. They're
nice.
Champions for their wives, is what they are. There's no feeling of inadequacy that I could see.
Right.
They're very comfortable in their own skin. Yeah. And they grew up in a generation where they didn't have to make more money than their wife did, or have to stand in their shadow. They just
be the man of the house.
That's right.
I can't tell you how many people, every time I was pregnant, people asked me, trying for that boy? Oh, God, I just, no, living in terror for 9 months that it might be a boy. That was my response. Okay. Should we do a couple of cards on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, please.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Yeah. So let's do another one here. What's this card? Oh, this is at the bottom of the deck. I don't think we need to do any more cards. I don't need, just remarkable. Oh, and look, I get this card all the time for Donald Trump. And here they are in opposition.
Absolutely.
Isn't that interesting? That is so interesting. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I get that she's being, they're taking away her vote. You know what I mean? These men are they're just shutting her down, and I couldn't imagine how it would feel to be in a position where there's men and you're dealing with this every day. I wouldn't want to go to work. I don't think I could do it. And I know they're making a sacrifice, I believe, to do it. These women.
Yeah.
Anything she said, they just, she's ghosted.
They're ignoring her. Yeah. Isn't that awful?
But she is a fire-breathing dragon, and if she was given the benefit of the doubt, and if she was being able to be listened to, she would be passing laws, and she would be doing things that there's nothing wrong with her. It's the situation.
No. Let me tell you something about the dragon. The dragon, along with the serpent, was the ancient symbol of the divine feminine.
Oh, definitely. And it's the year of the dragon.
Good. Well, let's hope that's true in November, huh?
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. So I would like, I think what I'd like to do, if this is all right with you, is do this as a series. And we can come back and do opposites again. And
a couple more. Oh, sure. Hey, I've done all my work, so I can rest on my laurels.
I can do mine, and we'll come back. We'll talk about it. We'll leave with these two for today, and we will come back and do another taping, and do two more, whatever.
Okay, that sounds good.
I think it would be fun to do it that
way. Should we look at the cards before we go about how this case is going to move forward in front of the Supreme Court about executive immunity? The president can do whatever he wants.
Yep.
It's insanity.
Just the fact that they even are considering it, and actually I heard it was 9-0.
I know. So they're all wrong. Well, wait. Was it 9-0? No. The 9-0. That was the ballot in the Colorado ballot thing, wasn't it? They have not come out. Maybe I'm wrong, but they haven't come out yet, have they, with the decision on executive immunity, on presidential immunity?
No, they haven't.
No.
But I thought that they voted if they were going to do it or not. But at the
Oh,
time-
well, yeah, they took it up. They took it up,
Okay.
which is crazy. They should have just left it, you know.
But
They're not justices. They're engineers.
oh wow. Well, the really good thing, Helen, is if they rule that he has immunity, then they rule Joe has immunity, and Joe can just stay in office, and Joe can.
He wouldn't do that.
No, I know he wouldn't.
He wouldn't do that.
I know.
You're talking about integrity versus absolutely no moral compass whatsoever. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So this is what I get first, is that the conservative judges are in bed with Donald Trump, which
Yeah.
we already know. We know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And he is the drunken sailor in this case, because the man, even though Donald Trump doesn't drink, he's well known to be sniffing Adderall and belligerent and nasty drunk man. Yeah. This will be the key, though, to determining the integrity of the court, I think. And if that's the case, and the Democrats win the election and the House and the Senate, they're going to take the no vacancy sign down, and I think that Biden might add some justices to the mix.
What's your gut feeling on why he hasn't?
Because he has integrity, and he doesn't feel like he wants to manipulate the court like Donald does. Donald's always tried to manipulate the court.
But the history of the court is
Yeah.
5 judges, 13 judges. There's no law, there's no regulation, there's no limit to how many or how
I didn't know
few.
that. Okay.
No, this is to the discretion of the president, and the president can do whatever he wants about it.
Does it have to go through Congress? It would have to go through Congress, though, right?
Well, sure, they have hearings. They have a committee that hears, right? They do like the Thomas, remember the pubic hair and the coke hearings?
Yes.
Yeah. So yes, of course, they need congressional approval, but the president can decide, okay, well, I'm putting forward 5 people. Now, what has happened in the past, like what happened with Mitch McConnell, is that they just said, well, we're not going to move on it until later. So should I show you what I got?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the 201's reversed. I think they're not really considering the long-term impact to democracy of what they're doing. And there's all this conspiring going on. They are conspiring. Mm-hmm. This is going to affect democracies all over the world. And I let me just say I don't have a great feeling about it.
Okay.
But I'm not making predictions, but because
Yeah,
I'm kind of Eeyore. I don't have a great feeling about it.
Yeah. I could see why it would affect democracies all around the world, for the very simple reason that so many have said that if the GOP gets into power again, we may lose tons of allies. No one's going to want to.
Oh, well, they're going to pull out of NATO, which weakens NATO and removes a lot of the defense, not all, but a lot of the defense that Europe has against predation. And they've got Putin here and Erdogan there and Orban here. And remember the Axis powers? They worked together, and this is very similar. Like our reluctance to help Ukraine is very similar to the situation that went on in England, the Battle of Britain. When Germany was pounding England and they were the last holdout, the Germans were on the beaches of Normandy planning on an invasion of England, and the United States said, no, we're not going to put up with that, and they helped them. Well, we're saying, well, I don't know, but Biden did the other day come up with money from somewhere.
Yes, he did. 3 million or billion or something. Yeah.
I don't know.
I know.
Who knows? Millions, billions, trillions. It's all the same thing when you don't have $20. It's all. money is meaningless.
It is. Wonderful. Not wonderful what the news is, but you can just tell how much in flux everything is, even from the readings. It's like one day you could look at it this way, another way you could look at it this, another day it comes through this way, but it hasn't been good for a long time. So, I totally get your cynicism, and I have to tell you that my son got a new tattoo. I don't like them, but anyway, he wanted another one, so he got Diogenes, and Diogenes, the guy that holds up the lantern so he can find a good man. And he's
oh, that's a great tattoo.
Yes, he's a philosopher of cynicism, and that's my son's name. He's a cynic. He really is. So
that's hilarious.
I can understand. It's like you can't make sense of the way things are going, and you don't know everything that's underneath. So it's really, really difficult to make.
It's really scary.
This decision about anything.
So you don't have a tattoo?
Don't like them.
I have a tattoo.
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah, I have a tattoo on the inside of my colon.
Oh dear.
I called up my kids and I said, I got a tattoo. And they were horrified because I just aggressively, I don't like them at all.
I don't
and they go, Mom, oh my God, you got a tattoo? Well, when they remove polyps, if they don't look great, they
I have one too. There you go. Yeah.
I'm so proud. I think that's a great tattoo. My daughter and I thought about getting SPQR, Senatus Populusque Romanus, the Senate and the people of Rome, but I don't know. No, I'm not going to bother. Forget it.
And again, people will watch this that have them, and I have nothing against. If you want one, that's your business.
Oh yeah, I don't care. Yeah,
I don't particularly care for them because I see them as not. It's like when we were younger. It was the ear piercing was the thing our generation went through. At least I did, and I had to be 18 before I could get my ears pierced because my mother didn't want me to do it.
I know.
Nothing compared to some of the things I see today. So yeah.
Well, the thing about tattoos, it's like a lot of things. With your hair grows back. So I never have an issue with hair. With tattoos, they're permanent.
Well,
and my attention
to have them removed too.
Yeah, and my attention span is not that great. I get bored with things. The thing I liked last week, maybe I don't like that outfit anymore. That kind of thing. Yeah. So I hate to commit.
I understand. So we're going to leave it here for today. We'll be back again with 2 more Supreme Court justices. Then we'll probably talk about John Roberts last, or some of the older justices and how they might have run things. But we'll also be pulling cards on it. But
we could both talk about John Roberts because there's John Roberts and there's John Roberts. So yeah.
That's right. All right. Thank you, Helen. We'll be back again.
Thank you, Allie.
Another installment. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it.